Hi friends, in this tutorial series we'll be covering Spring Boot and OAuth 2. So in previous articles we have already covered Spring Boot and OAuth 2 topics. However, we made use of an older version of Spring which was version 4. With Spring 5 quite a few changes have been made to the Spring OAuth 2 stack. So we'll be covering all these changes, and also we'll be covering topics like how to implement OAuth 2 for Spring Cloud microservices. For this I'll be taking reference of my website javanews.com. So go to Spring Security. So previously we had covered quite a few OAuth 2 topics. You can have a look at them here. So we have Spring Boot OAuth 2 part 1, part 2, client credentials, password grant. But as told previously, this was done using Spring Boot 1.4 version, which is the older version of Spring. So now we'll be covering Spring 5. So go to web series. So here previously we had done a tutorial series covering Spring Boot security and JSON Web Token. In this tutorial series we'll be covering Spring Boot security and OAuth 2. In this Spring Boot Security and OAuth 2 complete tutorial series, these are some of the topics that we'll be covering. So first we'll be understanding what is OAuth 2, how it evolved and why it is needed. Then we'll be going through the Spring 5 OAuth 2 technology stack. Then we'll be implementing the examples to have a look at the different OAuth 2 types like the authorization code, the password grant, also what is refresh token. And we'll be having different examples of OAuth 2 with the Spring Cloud microservices. So let us begin with the first chapter, that is understanding the need for OAuth 2. Before getting into what actually OAuth 2 is, let us first understand why OAuth 2 was actually needed. Consider an example where you're booking rooms at a hotel using some website. This website, it offers you a discount of 20% if you allow them access to your Gmail contacts, so that these people, they can send marketing emails to the people in your contact list. You accept their offer, but how will you share your Gmail contacts with them? Previously, the way this was done is you had to share your Gmail credentials with the hotel booking website, and then they would send the marketing emails to your contact list by logging into your Gmail account with these credentials, that is the username and password that you have provided, and then sending the marketing emails. Now this is not a hypothetical situation. Below is a screenshot of Yelp, which is a popular online directory for discovering local businesses ranging from bars, restaurants and cafes to hairdressers, spas and gas station. So here Yelp, it is asking for your email address and your password. So if you have selected Yahoo, it is asking for Yahoo. If you are Gmail, it would similarly ask your email address and password for Gmail. Once entered, the people at Yelp would then use these credentials to log into your account and then send the emails to the people in your contact list. Now this is known as password anti-pattern, sharing of credentials with someone else. What if there are security leaks at Yelp and your credentials, they are compromised? Using the Gmail credentials, unauthorized person, they can access your Google Wallet, Google Drive and even other services. So obviously sharing credentials is not a good way to allow third-party website access to your contact list or other details. So how OAuth to solve these problems? Soon many services realized that sharing of password is not the right way and began developing ways by which a third-party website app can be allowed access to certain protected data like email contacts. Many services, they implemented things or solutions which were similar to OAuth 1.0. For example, Flickr's API used what was called FlickrAuth, which used props and tokens. Google created something called AuthSub. Facebook opted to issue each application a secret and require the application to sign each request with an MD5 hash with that secret. Yahoo created something called BBAuth. So the result was that each organization, they were creating a wide variety of solutions to the problem, completely incompatible with each other and often failing to address certain security considerations. Soon realizing that the requirement was the same and not in any way related to their business. So this providing access to some protected resource, it no way affects the business of Google, Yahoo or other organization. So they realized that this requirement, it was no way related to their business. These companies started to jointly develop an open source specification which would allow apps to be authorized to access protected data without sharing of passwords. By August 2007, the first draft of OAuth 1 spec was published. Later there were various versions of OAuth and the current version is OAuth 2, which has become an industry standard. OAuth 2, it has become the industry standard protocol for authorization. It focuses on client developer simplicity while providing specific authorization flows for the web application, desktop application, mobile apps as well as living room devices. This specification and its extensions, they are being developed within the IETF OAuth working group. Let us now have a look at how OAuth 2 works. The actors involved in OAuth 2 are the user, client, resource server and the authorization server. So the user will be the person who is trying to book hotels using Yelp.com. The client will be Yelp.com. The resource server since the client he wants access to the user's Gmail contacts, so the resource server will be the Gmail resource server, and also the authorization server, it will be the Gmail authorization server. So let us have a look at the workflow now. So the resource owner, that is the user, he is accessing yelp.com, and now if Yelp it wants to access the user's protected data like photos, contacts, etc., the user will be directed to the authorization server page, where the user it should first authenticate itself and then authorize Yelp to access protected data by issuing the access token. So once the resource owner he authorizes Google authorization server to, yes, please give access to yelp.com, then what this Google authorization server will do is it will issue an access token to yelp.com, and using this access token, Yelp can then go to the resource server and then get the resource which the the resource owner has authorized yelp.com to access. So in this case, using the access token, Yelp can get the email contacts from the Google resource server using this access token. OAuth2 is used for authorization or authentication. So what is authentication? Authentication is identifying whether a person is the same who he claims to be. So it is who you are. So if the user he correctly provides the username and password, then yes, we can confirm this is the same person who he is claiming to be. Authorization is once the person he is authenticated, then we have to identify what permissions does this particular person has. For example, a website admin, he will be having some more permissions, whereas a regular user he will be having less permissions. So what permission does a particular user have? This is what is authorization. As we saw earlier, the origin of OAuth was developed for strictly authorization purpose. For example, using OAuth2, we can authorize website apps like Yelp to access our email contacts without sharing of passwords. So here we are authorizing yelp.com to get access only to our email contacts and nothing else. So this is authorization that was done using OAuth2. However, OAuth it has evolved further, and now along with OpenID, it is used for both authorization and authentication. So now using OAuth2, Yelp it can not only get access to the protected resource, but we can also identify, yes, who is the person who is providing me this authorization. So OpenID it is built on top of OAuth2. OAuth2 determines whether a website app can get access to protected data, while OpenID determines whether the user is actually who they claim to be. And yes, both this authentication and authorization using OAuth2 it is done without sharing of credentials by the user. For example, this documentation, Google explains how it uses OAuth2 for both authentication and authorization. So here if you go to this documentation, here Google's OAuth 2.0 APIs can be used for both authentication and authorization. So as told previously that OAuth2 it initially began as an authorization service, but now it has evolved for both authentication as well as authorization. So this workflow it is similar to what we had seen before, how OAuth2 is used for authorization. The difference is that now OpenID it is built on top of OAuth2. So along with authorization, OAuth2 also provides authentication. So if we use only authorization, then OAuth2 it provides the access token. Now since we are also making use of OpenID, it provides the ID token. So the access token it contains what yelp.com is authorized to access from the resource server, whereas the ID token it specifies or it authenticates that yes, this particular resource owner is the one who he claims to be. So now now our authorization server it provides us both the access token and the ID token to yelp.com. We'll be looking at this workflow in the next tutorials when we practically implement this workflow. So the different type of OAuth2 flows are the authorization code grant, implicit grant, password grant, resource owner client credentials grant, and the refresh token grant. In the next tutorials of this series, we'll be implementing these OAuth2 flows. I hope you have understood this tutorial. The main aim of this tutorial was to give you an overview of why do we need OAuth2 and how it evolved. Hope you have understood this. Next we'll begin with the implementation. Thank you.